He said his wealth wasn't a gift from daddy, referring to Donald Trump.
Right.
Says that he is smarter than he is, referring again to Donald Trump, but that he's not entertaining running for president. What did you make of that?
The one thing I'm excited that Trump has done has made it possible for people other than politicians to think they can run for president of the United States. That's good, because we're going to get.
Would he be a good president?
Jamie would be fabulous.
All right, the president and Jamie Dimon are at each other's throats right now. The president, after hearing that Jamie Dimon had said that he was smarter than the president, well, the president coming back at him and questioning that, and the nastiness ensues here. But to the point that, you hear a lot of these folks talk about it, the idea that, businessmen and women, successful businessmen and women can entertain running for the highest office in the land because Donald Trump paved the way. Let's get to read on all this from the New York Post columnist Michael Goodwin. What essentially Ken Langone is saying is that's fine. I might not agree with a Howard Schultz. I might not agree, with a Mark Cuban, or for that matter, even Jamie Dimon on everything he says about this president. But I'm glad that the door is open for them to even consider running for president.
Yeah, I think it's a great point. And Jamie Dimon clearly has been, at least in his own mind, thinking about this for a while. I mean, this is not the first time he's talked about this sort of thing. There's been a lot of speculation. He's 62 years old. He's been at JPMorgan for a while. He's been a very successful CEO of the biggest bank. At some point, you would think he would want to take the next step, and politics is increasingly likely. At least I think he thinks that way. And Langone's point that Trump has opened the door, I think, is an important one. However, I think that there's also easy to misunderstand why Donald Trump is president and not just a businessman who tried to run for president. And that is that he spoke to people who felt left out, who felt betrayed by the political system. And the way he spoke to them, what he said, but how he said it, all of that was unique in modern times. And yes, his business background was very important, but I think the longer he went into the campaign, the less that mattered, and the more it mattered the positions he took on the real politics, the real policies that had people concerned, especially immigration.
I think it's a great country because only in America can a billionaire run for president and become one. But leaving that aside, it is interesting what you said about how the president appealed to the common man, the average man and woman, and when he was anything but. You could argue Franklin Roosevelt had that ability. One of the nation's richest, wealthiest families somehow reached out to the common man. John Kennedy, you could argue as well. Now, of course, I know it's very different with Donald Trump. It's a more in-your-face style. But even on that level, Ken Langone was telling me, people knew what they were getting then, and they elected him then. All of this other stuff, notwithstanding, that's still an issue for a lot of folks now, people can deal with because they're getting all this other stuff they like for the economy, for the markets. What do you think of that?
Yeah, look, I think it's absolutely true that, the Bob Woodward book, all these things, they want to focus on the process. Donald Trump is the person of results. I mean, how he gets there, I think, is less important to not only his supporters, but should be more important to everybody else. The fact that the results are so dramatic. I mean, a 4.1% growth versus 1.8 or even 2%. Over time, it's a difference of millions upon millions of jobs, of higher incomes. All of these things we're seeing. That should be taken at least half of the Woodward approach, but it's not. It's thrown away as though the results don't matter. The results matter more than anything else, and I think that's what his supporters see.
I finished Woodward's book last night. It's very, contrary to a lot of the rap he gets, he did talk to a lot of people.
Sure.
But they're recounting, in most cases, conversations either that they were witness to or even had secondhand reference to, and he taped these conversations to sort of say, this is what I heard. Very few are direct interactions. In others, you can listen to us talking and quote it, or you can listen to, someone who watched our conversation and then quote them. So I understand the risks of that strategy. You, as a great journalist, appreciate that yourself. But the one thing that comes clear in Woodward, where it can explain a bias, is, and this is where I attached myself on a lot of the economic stuff, was that there would be cases where, I think to quote Woodward, 99% of economists thought this was a dumb move or a bad approach. Right. Well, that automatically would make me think, well, maybe it's not a bad move, right? Right. So why are we just assuming, because everyone is marching this way, that the president's approach, bull in a china shop though it may be, is the wrong way? You know, but that comes through, that thinking comes through again and again in the book.
Look, I think, and part of it is Donald Trump's personality. I mean, he is a disruptor that without end. So he disrupts.
And Woodward, I should finish that thought, a disruptor who won't listen to those views, whether you accept 99% of the views of economists or not, but won't even listen to it.
Right. Well, look, take the whole squabble with NATO over the spending, right? Now, there's one where, you know, all of the critics of Trump were alarmed. Oh, he's upset our allies. He's insulted them. He's made them feel like he's going to leave NATO. But he was addressing the same problem all the other presidents had to address, which is they don't pay their fair share, and they got nowhere with it. So he is bringing his way to it.
Mentioned it diplomatically.
Yeah,
to no result.
And President Obama tried. He called them freeloaders. Didn't move the needle because they knew that he had not drawn a red line, that he would do nothing about it, despite the rhetoric. Trump is a man who will act. And that is what people take seriously, friend and foe alike. And I think that is it shouldn't be missed by the Woodwards, but they ignore it, I think, in their calculations, in their assessments of him.
But do you get nervous? And here we don't know, because there are these allegations, you know, Gary Cohn and others ripping papers off his desk so that he doesn't sign something and create, you know, there are a dozen stories like that. That the Interstat is trying to protect him from himself for us. It seems a little tortured to me, but maybe that is going on. But if that's going on, there's a bigger issue of a shadow government here that's supposedly, you know, doing this in our interest. I'll be the judge of that, right? I mean, how dangerous?
Yeah, look, I do think it's a significant concern, especially given the way we saw the FBI and the Justice Department acting during the campaign, and all these tweets and the emails we're getting, or the text messages and the emails that come out showing that they viewed themselves as the people who should decide who should be president.
Because there wasn't one tweet or text from anyone liking him.
That's right. Not a single one. Not a single one.
Now we have the upcoming midterms, and if not for any of this, Republicans might be in better shape. I don't know. I don't know what you think. But is it your sense now there's a big primary battle in New York, Governor Cuomo up against Cynthia Nixon, but that there's an anger on the left that's palpable and real because the left is really furious?
Yes, and this, if the media were fair and covering Democrats, they would label this a civil war, a Democrat Party civil war, which is exactly what it is. Of course, civil war is a term reserved only for the right by the media. But nonetheless, this is a party that is in danger of tearing itself apart. We will see, who wins today in the New York primaries, but also then, does the party unite around those winners, or do you get...
Well, is it the Bernie Sanders party? Or the Cuomo party?
Well, look, I think nationally it is the Bernie Sanders party. Some of the states, it's still a jump ball. And I think New York is one of those states where it's a jump ball.
Michael Goodwin, thank you. I can see why he wins a Pulitzer Prize. On the right and the left, he's duly respected, and so he should be.